The bookends of GRIDLIFE's Festival Tour reach from coast to coast, from South Carolina and upstate New York to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in California. The middle third of this six-round championship has two stops at GRIDLIFE's longest-running tracks, Gingerman Raceway in Michigan and Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's the seventh time GRIDLIFE has been to this track and the fifth time for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup and for this year's round 6 of 8 in the 2023 championship. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to GRIDLIFE at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, one of our favorite facilities to race at and to time attack at. Kyle Heyer with Greg Kramer. Greg, welcome back. So delighted to have you back here in the booth for one of our favorite rounds of the season.
Absolutely. I've missed the other rounds that I couldn't get to due to some conflicts. It feels like I'm coming home. And for more than one reason here, other than just being part of GRIDLIFE and working with you, but this was the first GRIDLIFE event I ever actually worked. And so this one has always been very special to me. And there is no question, Kyle, that this track produces some of the closest racing that you will find on the GRIDLIFE calendar. It's just designed for that, very much a driver's track. But it also is wicked quick this year, and we've seen some of that already in practice.
Yeah, some new pavement, and of course the GLTC builds continue to get faster and faster. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Mid-Ohio Meet is provided by Hyundai. GRIDLIFE Live is powered by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive. And Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE Track Battle. And of course, we've got NOS Energy Track Battle Championship coverage for you later today as we get into qualifying for that series. But first up on our stream here this weekend is GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying, our 4-race sprint race series. But it all starts with a 30-minute session to set the grid for our first race that will be at about 5 o'clock Eastern later today. It is a 51-car field. Now, we have had some attrition so far. Aaron Lichty is out for the weekend with a fuel pump issue. There's a couple other cars that have had some problems, but we're expecting most of those 51 to set a lap here in qualifying.
Yeah, for those of you who've never really experienced Mid-Ohio, that high drone shot we just had of 4, 5, and 6, it's not. There isn't a huge amount of elevation change here, as in number of feet, but it happens in a big hurry, up and down, and it's really a challenging track. Lots of blind apexes, lots of apexes right at the top of crest where the car gets super light, and then you've got like turn 1 here, which is flat and really, really quick as you work through turn 1. Up into turn 2, you actually climb a little bit into turn 2 here, and then you fall away, so it goes a little off camber right as you need to be building speed for this run down this longest straight. There's a little kink in it. It's absolutely flat chat, Kyle, and it just continues to fall away down into the bottom and with the section they call madness.
Here's a look at our Hyundai N track preview here for Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and you mentioned really the first half of the lap here, Greg, but here's a look at it from high above. You see some of that elevation on the backside of the course, but this first corner, turn number 1, such a fast turn. It also has some new pavement that I mentioned earlier. It is an incredibly quick turn, and the track has added a little bit of extra curbing on the track out portion of that. It's painted red, so it's a little easier to see, but that will let you carry just a smidge more speed up to the keyhole at turn number 2. This is a 180-degree turn. It's downhill. The track falls away, as you mentioned. There's that kink at 3, and then your best passing opportunity into turn 4. This is where we're going to start our races, from turn 3 down to turn 4. That's turn 1 for the races, and then up over Madness through 5 into 6, and then you head into the backside of the course and get into Thunder Valley as well.
Right, and basically from 4 all the way through 9 is just an absolutely abrupt roller coaster ride. Up into here, into turn 11, you climb up into 11. It's a blind approach, and it's really easy to overshoot that corner if you turn in a little bit too early, but if you turn in late, you're just slow. So there's so much challenge to this place, and other than that one long back straight, and even that's not that long compared to some of the others, that's the longest absolute flat chat part. So this is a place a driver can make a difference. A really good driver can outshine more horsepower here. We see it every year.
And there's a lot of places on this track, the carousel in turn 13 that are just off to the left of this camera shot, that really require a really good balance in your race car. You're kind of pushing and shoving a bit, and how you set up your race car is really important here because there's some fast corners that don't have a lot of camber, and so the balance of your car, the way you set it up, the way you drive it with the feet, with the pedals, that is such a critical part of going fast around here. Now, there are places with camber, turn 4, 5, and 6, there's some banking to lean on, but turn 1 especially, pretty flat corner, and you're carrying over 100 miles an hour through it in a GLTC car, and reaching almost 130 heading into turn 4 right here at road Road America last week. 135 was the fastest speed that we saw. We're nearing GT4 straightaway speed with some of these cars. It's unbelievable how much you can get out of this power to weight formula.
Yeah, it is just remarkable. It races so well here. We've seen it year after year. Paul Curley has gone to the top in this session at a 135.344, 1 minute 35.3. That's 7/10 underneath the old track record already. And we are very early in qualifying here. Conditions right now, it's a warm afternoon. We've had a lot of sun, and so this track is susceptible to temperature change, sun change. Oh, really close contact nearly over here. We're overlooking the exit of the carousel onto the pit straight. We almost had a little touch over there. But everywhere you go, there's so much of this track. As I said, the approach is blind and uphill. And then it crests very abruptly. And this is the exit. This is turn 9. And you can't really tell it from here. But this, one of my favorite parts of any racetrack anywhere. You approach it, it's blind, and it falls away right as you commit to it. And if you miss the entrance, you're off in a heartbeat. And it's just a great track.
Yeah, and they did add some extra curbing over there as well, but it's not going to save you if you get that section wrong. It's just a little extra to help prevent dropping a wheel and that sort of thing. So cars work their way through. Here's some lap times up on the board for us, Greg, and excited to have lap times showing us that at the top of the board, it's that Corvette Quartet, just like we saw at Midwest Festival at Gingerman Raceway. This is one of our best tracks historically for parity, but man, it's really hard to beat these Corvettes in qualifying. However, remember we have rewards weight, 3%, 2%, 1% for those top 3, and that will put them behind heading into the first race later today.
Yeah, and Swenson, right after I talked about Curley setting that record, Swenson turned in a lap and took another 2/10 out of it. Matan Rosenberg coming off the, what is he 18 now officially?
I think he's almost 19
now. Yeah. Okay, so just getting his first ever win at Road America, sitting 3rd right now. Luke McGrew, who has just been a rocket ship as of late, and Houghton, Walbaum, Cattell, Hurdle, Chin, really nice job so far here. Just got pushed back into that 10 spot.
Another car I wanted to keep an eye on is the 374 car of Emil Tab. Tab currently down in 15th place, but Emil blew up his K-Swap MX-5 Miata last week at Road America, and he put an engine together, had it on the dyno in 3 days, and he's back here, and the dyno curve is almost identical. The car was really fast in practice earlier today. I don't think he's gotten a true representative lap. He's very quick. Another car I definitely want to point out is the number 55 of Paul Darling. He's got a new car, courtesy of Wes Case, who had to bail out of the season for a couple other reasons, but it has allowed Paul Darling to purchase that 2002 BMW M3. He was positioned 6 in practice. That's going to be a competitive car with a driver that knows what he's doing around here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Just moved into the top 10, up into that 9th spot. So, yeah, there's the proof right there. Really talented driver, and now has the car to show it, as you pointed out. Just saw James Houghton make his way down into the pits. Not a lot you can do during a qualifying session at the cars because it's not that long a session, but you can make little things like a pressure change on the tires that can really change the handling of the car. And as I said, it's warm out right now. And if you just didn't quite guess right and you overpressured the tire a little bit, it's just not going to handle right. So those little things you can make adjustments are. Swenson now into the 134s.
Yeah, 134.93. We're smashing track records lap after lap. There's Emil Tab, we mentioned, putting that engine back together basically last night. I mean, he was even under the hood last night, checking and tweaking and making sure everything was working right. Just for reference as to why that engine had an issue, basically he had a K24 that had aluminum rockers on it, and he was using some parts that didn't really cooperate with those aluminum rockers and have since been replaced with the earlier generation K24 engine that has the steel rockers. So it's a bit more of a sturdy motor for this sort of thing. And Emil was really fast last week at Road America, where you wouldn't expect a Miata to be able to keep up with the Corvettes and the super flat tuned cars like Houghton, but he was right up in the mix and should be one to watch. Darling improves to a 136.351.
Yeah, he really is driving well. We know he's capable of it, and Emil Tab pops into that top 10, as you were talking about. He's going to be somebody you always just simply have to keep your eye on here. Jake Jornstad right now up into the 12th spot in the number 132. We talked about Lena Chin, and the 917 is 13th. Tony Marchev in the number 17 is 14th, and Eric Jensen in that V8-powered Subaru
yes.
BRZ sits in the 5th spot right now, 15th spot, excuse me. So he's having a good run as well. And Ronnie Vidoc, who I think has been one of the real revelations this year, he has just really been impressive. He's in that top 20 right now as well.
Yeah, Ronnie had to miss Road America, unfortunately, but he is back here with us. Road America was a points round for GLTC. It was not for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship, which is back in action here in a full capacity at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Ben Thorne, by the way, is back with us in the number 166. There's a look at Ronnie and following Jeremy Swenson. But Ben Thorne in the Advanced Auto Parts Honda Civic. He's also got his Gears and Gasoline buddy Ben Lynn in a Toyota MR2 Spider, which is out here on the racetrack somewhere. It's got a white body kit on it, and it's a brand new build for Ben Lynn in that car, and we'll see how it performs here this weekend. I think they're still working out some bugs in it, but it is a neat looking car. It has a motor out of a Toyota Camry hybrid, and they basically changed the timing so that it takes it out of the Atkinson cycle that saves the Camry all that fuel and changes it to where it makes a whole lot of power. It makes 230 horsepower out of that Toyota sourced 4-cylinder. So really interesting car.
Yeah.
I think RAV4 axles in it as well, so it's just kind of an interesting piece. I haven't seen it out here just yet, but I'm sure he'll get a lap or two in before it's all said and done.
Well, that's one of the really cool things about the GridLife Touring Car Championship is, you know, there's a phrase that you hear sometimes called backyard engineering, and that's very much what this is. You know, these cars, they're not, you know, production GT3, GT4 cars that are bought off right off the showroom floor, essentially. These are cars that are built with a passion and love for the sport that's immeasurable, and it's creative, and that's what's fun about it. You've said this a few times, Kyle. You've said these guys and gals, you know, they're building the cars they want. And so you see these unique builds where you take this, put this engine in it, and then you do this to it. And in the end, the way that they're balanced with the power to weight ratio and how it's applied here, because that's a formula that's been used for a long time. Nobody's ever mastered it like Adam and the gang here at GridLife, and it produces some incredibly close, fast, furious, and downright fun racing.
And you're talking about the drivers that build cars that they want to build. Austin Hurdle, who we just saw go out of frame in that pink 370Z, that was a car that he used to run in Time Attack. And when building a GLTC car, he had the option to sell it and get something that might be thought of as a more competitive build, because the 370Z is a bit heavy. It's a pretty stocky car, but he decided he's going, I want to build this car, and last week he got one of his first podiums that he's ever recorded, and he's currently in the top 10 here in qualifying. So that car scaled in at 3,600 pounds, which is 1,100 pounds heavier than Eric Cattill's Honda Civic, and those two were just back and forth at Road America, of all places. Not a place that you would consider parity to be a strong suit for a series like this. It's just really impressive and a testament to the whole set.
It is. It is. There's no question about it. And what's really fun is, you know, you think about it, short races. So the cars that have the power in 15 minutes of pushing hard, they'll drive those tires off a little bit. The lighter cars that suffer early come alive late, and you just get these great battles. And at the end of the race, you look at the average, the race length times from each of the cars. They're so close, and that's what makes this just downright compelling and fun to watch. And and then you get those unique builds out there like that MR2. I hadn't seen it obviously before. Came by and I looked and went, "What is this?" And then I went, "I don't know what it is, but it's moving."
Yeah, it does have a body kit that was put on by Al's Auto Body, which we're very familiar with, Cal and Edie and Rich, and they put that body on a couple of months ago, and still working out some electronics things, and I haven't seen that track in qualifying yet, but Ben Lynn is here, and he will be running with us later. So times continue to tick across the timing and scoring. Again, if you'd like to follow along on a different tab, you can go to racehero.io for live timing and scoring. Still Swenson, McGrew, Curley, Rosenberg, Waldbaum, your top five. Then Houghton, Cattell, Paul Darling, Austin Hurdle, and Emil Tab. Also want to mention James Cathurst in the number 129. That's a BMW. He's only run one event with us before. That was back at Carolina Motorsports Park. So second round in and right up in the top 15. And of course, we've got the 14 of Carlos Mendez back with us again. He's run basically everything since joining GLTC back at Carolina Motorsports Park. So another driver that's just gone headlong into racing here every week. There's Cathers in that new BMW, new old BMW.
Right. Well, and in that round at Carolina Motorsports Park was right in the hunt, and in fact got a top 10, and is in that position, knocking on the door of that position again. I was going to mention for Matt Waldbaum, that lap he turned, he took his time, he pitted, he came back out, and then put in his flyer. So he didn't go out really quick right from the off. He went out, got a few laps in, made an adjustment, came out, and now has jumped right up into that top 5, pushing Houghton back into 6th, Eric Cattell in 7th, and Paul Darling, Austin Hurdle, and Emil Tabb rounding out your top 10 with Cathers, as you're talking about, right there knocking on the door of another top 10. And he was impressive in practice, Cathers.
He really was. There's a lot of cars that were very quick in practice. I expect to have some good race pace as well, as Ronnie Vidoc heads for pit lane, and looks like Cathers will head back around to start another lap. So I want to talk a little bit about the championship coming in. There was a slight change in the way that we calculate championships this season because of our finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That's all the way in California. In years past, you had to run the finale in order to be eligible for the championship, but with that event 3,000 miles away, didn't really deem that fair. So there was a slight adjustment that now just takes your best 5 rounds across the season without a required finale. Now, what that means is someone in theory could lock up a championship well in advance of that, and Jeremy Swenson is basically there. He's won 4 rounds, and there's only 3 remaining, so he's essentially locked that up. There is, I think it's Luke maybe that won the other one. If Luke wins everything from here on out and Jeremy doesn't, then we could have a fight in our hands. But if Jeremy wins this weekend, he's won 5 of 8, and that's it. He's got it. So all he has to do is not break, essentially. And his worst finish this season, 9th, back at Circuit of the Americas. And talk about speed, sure, but how you win a championship, Greg, consistency and speed. And he's had both of them this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's 14 podiums and 19 starts. Not to mention all the wins that he had, 8 of them. That's how you win championships, obviously. And, you know, the interesting thing is, we should probably explain too, for folks that maybe haven't watched that are big Mid-Ohio fans the first time back, how you calculate points for a championship this year has changed. There are 4 races per round. Used to be it was just points for every race. Now it's the 4 races, then get totaled through a point system, and you win a round, and that's what moves you into the championship points. Correct?
Yeah. So basically, that changed with the drop system changed in 2022. So in 2021 and prior, it was cumulative race points throughout the year, and you actually dropped your worst races. Now, what happened was the goal was to promote consistency across the season.
Right.
And if you can cherry pick the races that you had a bad result, you're kind of pushing forward a better season than you actually had. So the change was we're going to drop rounds, and at the end of the weekend, your cumulative points are turned into a position, 25 points for the winner of the weekend, then 21, 18, just like a race, and that is what you carry in the season championship. So it kind of makes things a little easier to calculate. A perfect season of 5 rounds is 100 points, easy enough. And Jeremy Swenson so far has got a lot of those already stacked up. He's got 401 cumulative points, but he has 113 season points with those. 125 is a perfect year. So 401 cumulative and 113 season points. So he's looking pretty good. As there's a black flag on track, which means that somewhere someone has had an off or an oil down that we'll have to attend to, Greg. But that will potentially end this session, as we're a bit behind schedule from an earlier cleanup, and we've gotten 18 minutes of qualifying.
And that's unfortunate. You never want to see any kind of a session shorted, but and it's somebody off in the gravel there.
That's Matt Corrence in the number 52 Honda Civic. And Mac has joined us a couple of times in the past, all the way out of Canada. They bring that car a long ways. And he's gone off just a little slide into the gravel at turn number 9. It looks like that's an easy place to make that mistake coming over the crest at 8. You're washing the car real out far left to turn in for turn 9, and especially in a front-wheel drive car, if you get the loading of those front tires a bit wrong, you can loop around.
Well, you bring up the point there too. Coming over the rise in 8, there are so many rises in this place, and if you get 8 wrong, then you're really messed up in the approach to 9, and sometimes you don't realize it right away, and then all of a sudden you go, oh no, I'm way offline here, and this is not going to happen. And because you look at where that gravel trap is at that point, which is sort of approaching 9, if you go off and you go, well, how does that happen? It happens, and it's all because of how tricky the exit of 8 is. And you have to go around these tracks and look at where is any potential off possible to see here, and that's how you lay out some of the barriers and gravel traps and the like. And a good look down there at the pit lane, and you can see all of the different designs, builds, different types of cars and the like that are all part of the GRIDLIFE Touring Car Championship. It is the most inclusive racing series I've ever experienced.
Yeah, the hope, and that's true of the cars and the people in the paddock as well. But the hope is you build the car you want to build, right? And then you have to trust that the series will make it competitive. If you've got the means to make it a competitive race car, then it should be competitive, and that's the goal always. And even last year, you look at 27 of the 40 races were won by S2000s, and this year a big portion, 14 of the 20, I think, have been won by Corvettes. So you're always going to have these outlier cars that you're chasing with the balance of performance. But this year in particular, you look at a car like Jeremy Swenson's. It was an outlier previously. It was one guy, one car. Now there's 5 or 6 of them, and they're all running really well. So now we've got data points. And one thing you don't want to do, Greg, is you don't want to start chasing round by round BOP at every track, because you never have any standard of what should be fast where, and it gets really hard and arbitrary.
We've seen how that works in other series.
Right,
and
or it doesn't.
Or how that doesn't work in other series. And all that does is just create confusion at best and frustration and anger at worst. And the way this works, and to really put a period on this, folks, one of the things that sets this series apart is you'll walk in here and you will hear cars revving like crazy. You're going, what's going on? There is a dyno, a rolling dyno at every one of these events. So if anybody has any question about their power V weight, it's easy to weigh a car, and here you can get that power answer right now. The dyno is actually new to GLTC. This is our 5th season, only the 2nd with a dyno on site, and that changed the game a little bit, because before there was an approved style of dyno that everyone had to be on for their competition forms to compete here in GLTC. Now there is just the dyno, and so while everything corrects in theory, but it's never really 100% consistent. Even the dyno that we have, you have to just trust, but everyone's on the same one. So at least you're being measured on the same measuring stick, and that has changed the game a lot. And you even notice it is so competitive every year. It continues to be. And I think the midfield especially, and I say midfield meaning 5th to 15th, that portion of the field is so much tighter than it used to be. And I hope just as fun. It certainly seems like those drivers are having a blast, but I hope that we're going to see some great racing. This is historically one of our best tracks for parity, and I think it's going to be a great show all weekend. Well, I mean, I was rewatching some of the stuff from last year here, and how many laps did Tom O'Gorman and Jeremy Swenson go side by side for virtually the entire lap?
A lot.
From 4 all the way to the exit of 9. They were side by side consistently. It's been that close, and they're 2 very different cars. So hopefully we'll see more of that here. We're getting some more green track time.
Yeah, nice quick recovery there by the crew. You see Mac's car down there in the pit lane. So hopefully drivers will get at least one more lap. And also in pit lane, just ahead of Mac, you can see that Toyota MR2 that Ben Lynn has with, I think that might be Mark in the window checking it out and seeing what's going on with it. He also has the specialists that helped put that car together and did the motor swap into it. They've got him on site here this weekend as well to help troubleshoot. And that gentleman has built MR2s with this swap for endurance racing. So as far as the car lasting, that probably won't be a concern, because they build those things for 12, 14, 16-hour races. So really interesting things. We're going to get a couple more minutes here of qualifying before we officially set the grid for our first race at the end of today.
Right now, the target is Jeremy Swenson's 1:34.934, and just to let everybody know just how quick this is here this weekend, that's 1.1 seconds underneath the old track record. So that's they're definitely getting after it.
They are, and the other thing is 2021 to 2022, we switched from slick racing tires to 200 treadwear street tires. And we didn't get slower. The cars continued to advance, including this one, Eric Catil. We just last week at Road America played a feature on his last 2 years. It's been a tumultuous journey, to say the least. But this is the 1-year anniversary of this car being debuted in GLTC after his original EG hatchback was crashed at Road America in 2021. Built this car in about 7 months, got it back to the racetrack, podiumed in his first weekend back with the car, and then went on for the rest of the season, recording top 5s and top 10s at Circuit of the Americas this year, driving home overnight, ended up up in a ditch on the side of a Tennessee highway with that car upside down, and just a couple weeks later was back at Watkins Glen, back on the podium, and a few weeks after that at Gingerman Raceway, back in victory lane. What a journey it has been, and that was his first win since GRIDLIFE Midwest in 2021, so it had been a while for one of the winningest drivers in the series history.
Yeah, one of the guys that has been a stalwart in this championship pretty much from the off, hasn't he? And I heard a rumor that the toe straps that car was held onto the trailer with, because it flipped into the ditch, but the tire racks on the trailer, the car never moved on that trailer when it went flipping, and the car was undamaged. It wasn't a huge job, and I've heard rumors that he now has a sponsorship from that toe strap company, because he sent him pictures and everything, and they were so impressed with that they said, we're going to help you out just a little bit. And that's just so cool. And that's what optimism's all about, right? It's like you just don't let it get you down. Yeah, you're going to have your moments where you're just feeling weighed down, but then you get to work and you end up winning.
Yeah.
And coming back. And Eric Cattell is, one of the top drivers in this championship. And a lot of people talk about this as club racing. I tend to call this actually more like semi-pro, because this is at the sharp end of the GLTC grid as the checker flag comes out. These guys, there's some really good drivers in club racing. They find it tough to win here. And these guys, if they go and do a pro race on occasion, are right in the hunt. So that's the level of driver you have here. This is some pretty incredible stuff. Yeah,
there's a couple drivers that have joined us this season from other grassroots road racing championships that are multi-time champions in their own series. And they come over to GRIDLIFE Touring Cup and they build a car to the rules, and they come in and they expect to run 3rd, 4th, 5th, and they end up 29th in practice. They go, oh man, this is a different game, and it is. And really the goal behind all of that, though, is yes, we want it to be competitive, but the low incident rate is really the star of the show here, at least the attempted to be.
Yes.
When we were at Road America last week with NASCAR, we did have one incident at Canada Corner, but other than that, the rest of the weekend was pretty good.
Yeah,
and as far as putting on a show in front of the fans, I think that was an excellent job by all the drivers. So really awesome to do that in front of a crowd that had never seen GLTC before, and I think a lot of people walked away from that now knowing what GRIDLIFE is, and maybe hopefully tuning in today and for the rest of the season to kind of keep an eye on the championship.
Well, and the great thing about this, there's so many, but the great thing, and you usually mention it at the top of every race show, in GRIDLIFE, motor racing is a non-contact sport. And the way the rules are set up is if somebody's got position on you, you can't turn in on them, you can't run them wide, you've got to give them racetrack. And that has promoted not just some great racing with side by side for corner after corner, but a lot of smiles at the end of the day, because nobody has massive builds to do and fixes to do for the most part, and that's what sets it apart. Quick note here, Eric Cattell, late in that going, Waldbaum had worked his way up in the 5th, and Cattell turned to 135.6 and jumped 2/10 in front of Matt Waldbaum. So that puts Cattell now on the inside of that 3rd row with Waldbaum on the outside, and going into turn 1. Not a bad, turn 4 for the start. Not going to be a bad place to be.
Yeah, and Cattell and Waldbaum were 2nd and 1st respectively in race 4 here last year. So we'll keep an eye on those two. 17th place run for Ben Thorne, also in his 2nd ever GLTC weekend. Not unfamiliar with the track nor the car, but only his 2nd round in this series. So really excited for his weekend.
Yeah.
Watkins Glen was really wet, really rainy. New racetrack for Ben. Still kind of working on the car, the teething issues. So for him to be here running inside the top 20 in a 40-plus car field, we're off to a really good start for a driver that is still kind of figuring out the wheel-to-wheel thing. Really exciting things. With this, though, we're going to wrap up the GLTC show as Drift is going to head on the racetrack here shortly. In a few minutes, I'll be joined by Derek King to cover a little bit of drift at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's the first time it's happened here in decades, and I'll tell you, when they went out for their first sighting session this morning, it was a sight to see. It felt very strange watching Drift at Mid-Ohio, but a neat show, especially for the fans that have joined us here trackside, Greg. So we'll step away for a few minutes. We'll be back after this.
Born on the track, bred on the mountains, raised on the podium, ready for anything and everything. Learn more about our entire line at falcontire.com.
Owning a car can be expensive. It can also be confusing. What? And when things don't go right, there's no doubt it could be frustrating. But it can also be a lot of fun. And for those reasons, FCP Euro exists. Check this out. Do you and your car a favor and head over to fcpeuro.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and when it comes to classics and high-performance cars, I only trust America's #1 racing oil, Valvoline VR1. It's built on Valvoline's long legacy in racing, so I can continue to build my own. With 2 times more zinc than the industry standard, VR1's high-performance formula is tested on the track and trusted on the road to ensure your engine is protected from metal-to-metal contact. And I use it so much, I haven't got my car on the bottle. That's why whether I'm racing or cruising, I protect everything I drive with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.